What's going on, and welcome on into episode 271 of the Garage Beers podcast, brought to you proudly here on the OBR streaming network. Again, week in, week out, day in and day out, nobody brings you Browns coverage like the Orange and Brown Report. And then Tuesday, that was a nice pop you had there, Chad. That was a nice little crack open you had right there.
It's girthy too.
Girthy.
Yeah.
Then on Tuesday nights, you get to hang out with us and do what we're going to do tonight. We're going to spend a lot of time with our amazing special guest, Jordan Zirm. He's already here. He's prompt. He's punctual, like a professional. He's in the background. We're going to get him in here in a minute. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Guardians. I have this whole, of course, this is the way this works, by the way, this whole show planned to rant and rave about this Cleveland Guardians season. And they go down to Houston. They win yesterday. And they're putting a hurting on Houston so far tonight. Of course, that's how it's going to go. But we're going to talk about the Guardians. We're going to talk about a little bit of something we got to talk about in the NBA. We'll get to the Browns a little bit. We'll get to other things going on in Cleveland. So you get to talk about all of it with us here on the Garage Beers podcast. Get over to the OBR.com and subscribe. If you are watching on YouTube or Twitch on the OBR's page or on our page, hit subscribe, hit like. We appreciate your support on all of that. As again, we've got a great show coming up for you. Tonight with you, as always, I'm your host, Michael Keefe. Find me online at Garage Beers Mike, and joining me with a not working microphone. So we're gonna work with ambient sounds here tonight on Garage Beers from the porch. It's Chad Meyer at Garage Beers. Chad, what's up, Chad?
Yeah, it's unfortunately this is the way it's going to have to be tonight. As we were getting ready to do the show tonight, Mike said, "Oh, I can't hear you in your mic." And then I was like, "Okay, well, let's see what's going on." And then I look over at my soundboard as I was trying to unplug it, plug back in. You know, the whole reboot, restart thing. And sparks just start flying out of the soundboard. So. Yeah, tonight's going to have to be this, because your boy's going to need a new set of podcast equipment.
Hey, big shout out to, I'm not giving shouts out to any big major companies, but there's that A company that delivers things right to your door, man. You're going to have a mic by next week. It's going to be
200. Hey, listen though, shout out to this podcast equipment, dude. This was a cheap little like $175 like complete starter set, and it lasted 270 episodes.
5+ years of that dinky ass microphone.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to sound like a professional, hopefully, here in the near future.
Well, I love it. And listen, like I said, we've got a big time show coming up for you. We're getting to the Guardians in a minute. We're going to get to our special guest in a minute and all that stuff that I talked about to start. And I hope our special guest that I can see in the background here, hope he doesn't mind, but we're actually going to kick things off with a really big announcement that we just kind of finalized. And it's humongous news for us here on the Garage Beers podcast. And we're leading the show off with it because if you're going to start listening to the show tonight, and you have to take off early or something, I want you to hear this really quickly. We have got a major announcement for next week's show. We have got a humongous guest coming on. If you are a fan of the sport of ice hockey, if you're a fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets, I cannot wait for this. Next week here on Garage Beers, we've got the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Dean Evison, an NHL legend, is going to join us in the garage to talk Blue Jackets hockey. And you do not want to miss Coach Dean Evison of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Cannot wait for that. So shout out to our friends at the Blue Jackets. Shout out to you, Chad. Shout out to Todd Chirac, who runs things for us down with the Jackets, for hooking us up with Dean Evison. But to get the active head coach of the Blue Jackets, cannot wait to talk to Dean and bring that to you next week for episode 272. So make sure you are locked in for all things Garage Beers next week.
I'm going to ask him about, because I believe Todd told us he's a big fan of musicals. I got to know more about that.
That's all we're talking about.
Like how far does this go? Like, are you and Mrs. Evison singing show tunes while cooking dinner? Like, where's this at?
It's how he motivates the team. How do you think they played well this year?
Yeah, a little bit of West Side Story, Jets and Sharks.
Yeah, I'm not going to miss my shot or whatever the song says. In Hamilton. Yeah, he's got that. So again, big time show next week. Dean Evison, big time show this week. As we've got somebody I think I've been following on Cleveland socials and all that forever. And I don't know why it took this long to throw out the invitation, but you know him. He talks about all Cleveland sports. He is the content manager for Sporting News. Cleveland guy out in LA. So, this is the right time of year because the weather's good in both places. But we're bringing him in right now. Can't wait to talk to him. It's Jordan Zirm. Jordan, for the first time, welcome on into the Garage Beers podcast.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate the invite. I've got my IPA here. Excited to drink it with you fellas. So yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you being willing to jump on and hang out and talk with us. Again, you're out in California, right?
I'm out in California. I was in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago, where I forgot what humidity was like, and that really got me. It's very wild. You grow up in a place for like 30, and you live in a place for 30 years, and then you leave for a couple of years, and you just forget everything about the weather in the other place, and then you come back, and you're like, oh, I was not prepared for this at all. So
like, why am I unable to breathe?
Yeah, like stepping into a sauna, but. But yeah, out in LA, but come back to Cleveland at least a couple times a year. So all the family is still in Cleveland, and always good to kind of come back and hang out.
Heck yeah, man! Can't wait. I was scrolling. I was probably doom scrolling about the Guardians through TikTok, and I kept seeing your post, and I'm like, I want to have a good, solid Guardians episode, and Jordan seems like the guy to do this with. So again, appreciate you coming on. We're going to talk about all things Cleveland Guardians. Again, playing pretty well right now, but we'll see how that goes for the rest of tonight. But before we get into all that, we've got to start, like you said, Jordan, with our favorite segment of the week, and that segment is our Garage Beers of the Week. So why don't you tell us exactly what that IPA is that you're drinking? Give it a shout out and let us know how it is.
All right, this is a Fremont Lush IPA. I think it's actually brewed in Seattle. I actually have a very good friend from high school. Shout out Cleveland Heights High School, who lives in Seattle, and kind of put me on to this beer. It's a good IPA, but it's a good summer IPA. Like it's not too bitter, not too heavy. So it's a perfect summer IPA. I know maybe there's polarizing feelings on IPAs, but I still strongly enjoy them. It's my beer of choice. So yeah, it's a Fremont Lush, really good. Highly recommend.
It's a shame Joey's not here. Our third guy, Joey Whalen, who's not here because it's his lovely wife Maddie's birthday tonight, so they're out for a birthday dinner. He moved out to Seattle a few months ago, so he's up in that area too. So he's probably knowing him, he's probably visited all the breweries at this point. So
and he's only been out there a couple weeks.
Yeah, right. I didn't mean to laugh right in the middle of your conversation, but of all the nights for me to get this notification on my phone, Brian Rocchio home run.
Yeah, just watched it. Crazy.
And he doubled earlier in the game. He's 2 for 2.
Is playoff Rocchio back? We're going to get into it. Chad, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, first off, it's a big shout out to my new friend, Josh Jones. He is a guy who coached Fletcher's baseball team with me this year, my son's baseball team with me this year. Finally got a chance to get to know him because we went to the captain's game and the team got to run out with the players and that whole thing before the game, right? The Field of Dreams team. Come to find out, old Josh is the brewmaster over at Hofbrauhaus there in Cleveland. And as a thank you gift for the season, he brought me a Crowler, a Pilsner.
Yes.
Right there. And boys, he said he just filtered it today. So this is the freshest possible Pilsner that you could have from Hofbrauhaus. So yeah, shout out Josh. Thanks for bringing it. And that's a lot of beer. Yeah, it's good. It's good. That's gonna be a lot. That's a big sip. But yeah, that's what I'm drinking tonight, guys. I probably have to pee about 42 times before the episode's over. But hey. It's fine. We're here to have some fun.
You're outdoors. That's what those bushes are for.
Exactly.
Hey, listen, there's garage beers, there's shower beers, there's cold beers, there's warm beers, but nothing's better than free beers. So
damn right.
Shout out to Josh. You got to love that. That'll bring it around to me, and I've got a theme going in the comments here. Joe Mannix over in the comments says, having a half a pint, I don't know why half a pint, but a half a pint of Treehouse Juice Machine has been consumed. So hopefully, Joe, you're continuing to consume that. I'm going to take it to that exact same brewery. It's been a minute. It's been at least 2 weeks since I've had a Treehouse on, and the fridge is still stocked with them. So, Treehouse Brewery, Sturbridge, Massachusetts. Again, my favorite. This is called the Cataclysmic, and it is a triple IPA, 9.4%.
Oh my goodness!
Woo-hoo!
A hefty girl here,
Ooh,
A hazy New England IPA. Treehouse. Nobody does it better than Treehouse. And here it is. Yeah, it fits the bill. It fits the bill. So, again, be like Joe. Let us know what you're drinking in the comments as you join us live. And to you guys, everybody joining us tonight, we say cheers. To you guys, I say cheers. And now let's get in to episode 271 of the Garage Beers podcast. And Jordan, the Guardians picked. It's an inappropriate time for the Guardians to have ended I guess I didn't realize this, but it makes sense. It rolls with the Tito theme. Their first 10-plus game losing streak in 13 years. They just endured with that 10-game losing streak that they just had, finding just wild ways to lose. Like nothing could epitomize just really shitty baseball more than losing by like 100 runs to the Tigers after you are 1-0 in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs and a pass ball. I think they called it a wild pitch, but that was a pass ball. Gets by Bo Naylor to allow the tying run to come in and score. A 10-game losing streak. Man, Jordan, let's just give overarching feelings. Let's get our feelings out. Let's be a bunch of men with beers talking about our feelings with the Cleveland Guardians here because, again, ALCS appearance, something you felt like they could build on, and they have not done that to this point. So let's get our feelings out.
No, they haven't. I mean, I think what is so hard about it is, not only was last season sort of, wire to wire leading the AL Central, but then they had one of the most fun playoff runs that I think I can remember. Obviously, they didn't get to the World Series, which would have added to that. And I think we all fondly remember 2016 and what a sort of similar sort of surprising run that was. But I don't think a lot of us will forget, the John Kenzie Noel home run, the David Fry walk-off. That playoff, those 2 playoff series had some incredible moments. And I think that game against the Yankees where they came back and John Kenzie hit that mammoth home run, those will go down as playoff games I will never forget. And so I think you're excited to build off of that. It feels like they have this team with a lot of young talent, and then they have this really, for what it seemed like, this really good farm system where it's okay, well, they have these guys in place, and then next year you can kind of bring up some of these names that we've heard, and I'm sure that we will get into. And I think, and then the season starts off pretty well, and you're feeling good about it. And then things just kind of collapse. And I think it was a teetering ship to begin with. I think it was a bit of a facade, the sort of early success that they had. I think this 10-game losing streak is maybe a little extreme, but a much more accurate picture of the team that they have put on the field this season. And I think, you sort of saw it in the offseason when they made some trades which on paper are smart, but they're the sort of trades that an organization makes when they're okay, well, we're rebuilding now, rather than a team that is, hey, we just went, we were 2 games away from the World Series. Let's build on this thing. In a vacuum, I don't mind the Josh Naylor trade. In a vacuum, I don't mind the Andres Jimenez trade. But it's funny because it's they were the team that gave Jimenez that contract. So they're looking to get out of it. They were the ones that gave it to him. The Josh Naylor thing, obviously, right, he's going to be a free agent. He may get traded at the deadline if the Diamondbacks don't feel like they're going to make a run. But he's swinging an incredibly hot bat. He's going to be a top target if the Diamondbacks do decide to get rid of him. And they made those trades, which on their own are fine, but then they did nothing to replace them in a lineup that last season, also desperately needed people to score runs and to just provide any sort of offensive spark. So they sort of let those guys go without any sort of plan to replace them. And I think what you're seeing is a culmination of those decisions in lineups this season that barely resemble a Major League Baseball team. And for that to be what's happening the season after what happened last season is incredibly disappointing, incredibly maddening. And I think, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but it feels like for the first time that the criticism is as loud as it has been, especially around the front office, for, I don't know, but in recent memory. I think the front office kind of, doesn't have to answer a lot of questions because they generally make smart moves given the financial constraints that they have, but I think they've probably deserved. I think this has been a long time coming in terms of the offensive side of the ball, and I think you're really hearing the sort of criticism about as loud as I can remember.
Now, I guess this is my trouble when it comes to the Guardians / Indians, right? You talked about it being a facade with this year's team. Is it in hindsight? I know I'm playing hindsight here, but has it always been a facade? Because every time they have a good year, Jordan, they never seem to build on it, right? It's always okay. When they have clear holes to fill, they always seem to rely on the growth and development of their in-house talent. It's just not there. So as even dating back to all those division titles that Tito won, has it always been a facade, or is this a team that's just underachieving?
I think, I don't know if I'd say it's always been a facade, but like the way they win is they have no margin for error, and because of how they build these teams. So if you look at last season, they still were not a good offensive baseball team. And for them to go on the run that they did, they had to have a couple things. They had like a historically good bullpen. Like they had one of the best bullpens in recent memory ever. And so you have that, which is not sustainable on a year-to-year basis. You are not going to get that kind of, we know what the variance is in relievers from year to year. Like you're just not going to get that type of performance every year. Number two, their defense has been probably as bad as anybody in Major League Baseball this year. I don't think you could have predicted that much of a regression, but they were one of the top 5-10 teams in defense last year. So like, not only was their bullpen historically good, their defense was incredibly good, so they didn't need to score 5, 6, 7 runs a game. But that's such a house of cards way to build a team, because the minute you have that regression, as we've seen this year, like the bullpen has not been anywhere near as good. Clase has struggled, Hunter Gaddis has struggled, like guys that were Cade Smith, who had the atrocious outing against Detroit after they blew that game, like. So you're not going to get that type of performance, and their defense has been horrific. And then when you combine that with sort of the lineups that they're trotting out there, I mean, their record accurately reflects. So to your point, I don't think like it's a facade. I think they have to build their teams this way because, again, of the constraints that the Dolans put on this front office. But it is like, you look at these teams sometimes and you understand why year to year they go from being, wow, they could get to the World Series, to what you're seeing this year, because you have to have so many things go right, and you have to be so good at so many aspects of baseball, and that's just not realistic. Like, you need to have some room for error, and the Guardians just do not, and have not for, I mean, since those teams in the 90s, this is how they've been built. And the teams, it's funny because like you think about the teams that have played well, like 2016, 2022, like these teams that are really good, but you're like, how are they actually this good? I'm not sure I even understand. And it's because those things go right. And then the next year you see what happens when on the margins, they just don't play quite as well. And then it collapses.
Do you guys think, like, and this can go to both of you, because do you guys think if you were able to get Paul Dolan in a room, right, for an off-the-record conversation, what do you think he would say about like the way they build these teams? Like, do you think he would honestly tell you that no, this isn't like I'm here to make money, like this isn't a championship way to build a championship roster? Like, do you think he would be honest with you guys, or do you think he would still give you like this is what we have to do, yada yada yada?
I'm gonna say this, and I'll leave a little bit of what I actually know out of it. I think he will tell you he doesn't know a lot about the team. I do not think Paul Dolan, and again, it is what it is at this point. I'm not even afraid to hurt a feeling. I don't think he cares. I don't think that he wakes up in the morning thinking, man, I hope the Guardians win tonight. I don't know that he watches the games. Yeah. I don't know that he watches a lot of the games. I don't know that I'm ready to like. There are certain owners out there that I wish watched less games. There are certain owners that I wish were disconnected from the team a little bit more. But I do not think the Cleveland Guardians. I certainly In no way, shape, or form do I think the Cleveland Guardians winning a World Series brings up even the slightest bit of blood pressure and passion in Paul Dolan's veins. There's nothing there, and with a little bit of background knowledge, there's nothing there that suggests different to me.
And to piggyback, I think he would tell you, hey, look how competitive we are every couple of years. Look what I always see this graphic on Twitter, and I forget if it's over like the last 10 years or the last 15 years, but like the Guardians record over the last like 10, 15 years compared to other, and it's like the Dodgers and it's like the Yankees, and then like it's the Guardians at number 5, and it's like, I think they would point to that and be like, look at what we've done, look at how we've developed pitching, look at all these things, look at how competitive we are year in and year out. And I don't think there would be any sort of, and I think this is a problem as a whole. It's not only Dolan, it's the front office too. There's very rarely any sort of self-reflection or change or adaptation in like how they operate as an organization, because I do think they think of themselves, and it is a league-wide reputation as a really smart organization. Like there's no way around that. They are smart people. They have done smart things.
Well, they have to be if they're going to be this competitive. Yeah,
exactly. But I think that prevents them from ever really changing their approach, because they get this sort of feedback like, oh, yeah, you guys are a pitching factory. Oh, you guys are, analytically one of the smartest teams in the league, all that stuff. And it really does prevent them from ever changing like the way they operate at all. And then you get seasons like this, which is what happens, I think, as a culmination, like I said before, of a lot of factors. But like, there's just really no like self-evaluation of the organization or desire to really, hey, maybe we should, especially offensively, like, hey, maybe we should do something different because none of our prospects are good at hitting, like, so it's like, maybe we should try something different. I don't know. You just feel like those aren't the conversations that are being had.
No, and it always takes me back. I every time we get into a season like this, and man, have there been these seasons. It takes me back to a quote from Mark Shapiro when he was here, or I think it was actually right when he just left, when he left to go to Toronto, and he talked about his runs that they had in Cleveland. Again, you got to remember this is a Cleveland back then it was the Indians, now the Guardians team that just continues to just kind of be competitive all the way through. Like you think back to years like 2005, they were really competitive, and they almost made the playoffs in 2005. I think a lot of people think there was this lull of just terrible baseball. They found their way to be competitive, but it was Mark Shapiro that said when he left, his biggest regret was after that 2007 season when they went to the ALCS and they blew that 3-1 lead against Boston, because everybody knew the team that won that series was going to beat the crap out of the Colorado Rockies in the World Series that year. And he said his biggest regret is that they just said, well, we were this good last year with kind of a bunch of young guys, so stands to reason that the young guys are just going to get better. And so we're going to be this good, if not better, next year. And they weren't. And then what happened next year? You trade Victor Martinez, you trade CC Sabathia. You just consistently see that they get to these points where they make the playoffs or they make a little run in the playoffs or whatever. And then they come back the next year and they're like, yeah, well, listen, this group of guys will do it again. And they don't. And they don't. And the problem that I have is then I feel like it always gets thrown in my face that the one time they didn't do that was 2016. Because after that 2016 season, they go out and make the biggest signing of the offseason with Edwin Encarnacion. And I think at the trade deadline, that was the Jay Bruce trade deadline.
That was the Jay Bruce, yep.
Was it Josh Donaldson at the trade deadline too?
I think that was the following year, but it was Jay Bruce at the deadline that year, yep.
Yeah.
But it seems like that spooked them.
Yeah, it's like, well, we did it that year and we didn't win the World Series. And it's
right.
Like, that's how you have to do it, though.
Right.
Yeah. Well, they don't, they hate taking risks like that. Like I was about to bring it up, like genuinely the only time they've ever quote unquote gone for it with like additions at the deadline or in the offseason was 2017. And as they should have, it was like they just they blew a 3-1 lead in the World Series. Fine. That's whatever. They genuinely went for it. That was the year they had the 22-game winning streak. I mean, that was what's so funny is that team was so much better than the 2016 team.
So much better.
But they, stuff happens. Like Encarnacion twists his ankle in Game 1 against the Yankees. Like there were things that happened that prevented them going on and doing bigger things. That team was legitimately one of the best Guardians/Indians teams that I've watched. Like, and so it's like, listen, the process was sound. Now the results maybe didn't happen the way you wanted, but the process was correct. That is the correct process, and they have. In the last 20 years, like that's the only season that they, like, you could say, okay, they traded for like Brad Hand, I think the following year at the deadline or whatever, but like it's not the same caliber of thing. They always they always have one foot in the future, and
yes.
Like you look at these trades, for example, this year in the offseason when it's like Slade Cecconi and Luis Ortiz. These are two projects. Why are you making trades for project pitchers if you're also trying, those are moves you make when you know your team is going to be bad, right? You're like, okay, right. This season doesn't really matter. Let's try to develop a couple of pitchers that we've identified that, and they have the right, like they are almost always right on pitching, where it's like that we have identified that we think we can turn into legitimate starters. But this is not, this should not be the season where you're experimenting on pitchers coming off an ALCS. Exactly. So like it's the biggest example of how they operate, I think, is those two trades where it's like, instead of addressing anything offensively in the offseason, they said, well, okay, I mean, they did need pitching. Like their starting staff was not that great last year, but it's like that's a priority this offseason was like some guys you want to tinker with during the season. Like that is so representative of how they think about like their organization. It's like, well, okay, yeah, we had a great season. We got to keep an eye on the future though. We got to keep an eye on 5 years down the road. And they've always sort of operated with that like that. And it doesn't change.
I'm just so tired, Jordan. I'm just so tired of feeling like we got to luck our way into a World Series or luck our way in, because that's what it feels like.
It's it. I keep hearing Brad Pitt from one of my least favorite movies of all time, Moneyball. And it's only my least favorite movie because it's glorified this way of thinking that doesn't work. And it never has worked. Moneyball has never resulted in a World Series, but yet we glorify Moneyball, especially here in Cleveland. But you can get rid of Josh Naylor and we'll just replace him in the aggregate. That's I keep hearing that in my head. I will say shout out to Slade Cecconi because dude's been good this year.
Listen, and before Luis Ortiz decided that he was maybe going to throw games, he also looked to be pretty decent. You can see stuff in both those pitchers where you're like, okay, I get it. Like I get why you went out, and obviously like you can't predict whatever is going to come out about Luis Ortiz and whatever is happening there. But and the other thing too that's frustrating is like, listen, you didn't even need to it's not like you had to go out and sign like Alex Bregman or like some huge free agent. Right. You could have just, there are veterans that could have come in here that you could have got for not that much money that you can throw in the middle of the lineup and it would have been fine. But you can't trade away, especially Josh Naylor. Andres Gimenez was not hitting very well last year and is not hitting very well this year. But like, you can't just get rid of those two pieces in the middle of the lineup and then not replace them with literally anything. You can't do that, So that's where it's infuriating. It's like, just sign a guy for a veteran's minimum. I think like you guys talk about getting spooked. It's like, listen, you're going to sign guys and they're not going to work. Like Josh Bell didn't work out. Fine. At least you guys tried. Yeah, exactly. At least you guys tried to get a power hitter in the middle of your lineup. Like, I would rather them do that and fail and have to ship that guy off at the deadline than do nothing because they're too afraid of like, we have to give up a prospect and this guy might not work. They're just always they're paralyzed in these decisions and they end up doing nothing, and that's the worst thing you can do.
That would be so much more tolerable if they just signed a guy like Josh Bell every year and if it didn't work out, trade him away. That would be so much more tolerable.
And let's you hit something that I have said over and over and over and over and over again, because I think when you start having conversations about the Guardians, people just they kind of clasp their pearls and they dig their heels in because they've been competitive and they've got one of the best regular season records, or at least they did for a while in baseball over a stretch of time. And what more do you want out of a small market team, which is a joke anyways. But or you have the other people that are screaming they should be able to sign everybody and blah, blah, blah. My thing has always been this. If you want to play, I I hate talking about contention windows because I think it's loser mentality all the way. I think contention windows are for losers. But if you want to play the contention window game, I'm perfectly fine with you riding waves, with you ebbing and flowing into contention windows. But when you're in a damn contention window, if we're going to talk about salary, because again, lots of people want to act like salary doesn't matter in baseball. It matters as much as anything in baseball. It matters. If you're a Major League Baseball team owner and you can't ebb and flow from one of the lower payroll teams in baseball to now we're competitive, so we're going to be like a mid-level payroll team, just like 16, 17, somewhere in that range. If you can't get to that, then you're never going to win that big one. You're never going to, because it doesn't happen and no teams ever do it. And it is the rarest thing. If you can't grow into a mid-market kind of team as far as payroll goes, then what are we doing here? And that to me is frustrating. That to me makes me feel hopeless, because as close as they've come, they've been one win away from a championship. They've been one killer Jason Kipnis foul ball away from a championship in 2016. They've been so close, but it does not excuse the fact that since 1948, there hasn't been one meaningful banner hung in that stadium.
It doesn't, and you just look at like the Tigers right now. That's a team that went on a little bit of a run at the end of last season, got themselves into the playoffs. They have Tarek Skubal. They have a bunch of young guys like a Riley Green and a Spencer Torkelson and guys that really started to come on, and they looked at their roster and they went hard after Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman basically just said, I'd rather play for the Red Sox, but they went after him. I think it was down to Detroit and Boston. Yeah. So that's a team that's in a almost exactly same size market as Cleveland. But has an owner and a front office that's willing to, when they see what their team is, when they see a team that went on a second half of a season run to get into the playoffs and give the Guardians a really good series, and you have a pitcher like Tarek Skubal, and you have a pitcher like they went and they traded Jack Flaherty, and then they signed him back in the offseason. They brought him back. So they recognize that they are in that window, and they want to maximize as their young talent sort of, kind of flows to the top. And you're seeing that a lot. I think Colt Keith, one of their young guys, had a 2-run homer tonight. So that is such a dichotomy there between how Cleveland operates and then how somebody like Detroit, who's basically Cleveland and Detroit, we're like right. This, we're the same. We're the same. And how they operate is just in two very different ways as they kind of went after it. And look at them. Still best record in baseball. They're going to probably be the top overall seed in the American League. They're going to have a legitimate chance to get to the World Series with that starting pitcher, those starting pitchers in that lineup. And had they signed Bregman, who knows? But they were we're going after him because we feel that there's a window opening right now. Let's get Bregman in his prime for a couple years and let's go after it. And that's just not. You brought up Josh Donaldson. They signed him when he was on his last legs. That's the kind of guy where they're oh, what about Josh? He was unsigned. He was rehabbing back from an injury, I think. Yep. And they're oh, what about him? Let's try him out. Those are just. It's such a difference in those things, and it's frustrating.
He played well after he left Cleveland. He had a couple more good years after he left. He did. The thing that kills me, and I don't want to make this all about payroll and the owner.
Sure.
Although I will have one more owner point after this. But I want to talk about a little bit of, all right, well, if we've got a foot in the future, then let's talk about that for a minute, because who knows what's going to happen here this season. But the thing that kills me is we're sitting here talking about markets and small markets and market sizes as if I know that's not the only factor in how big a team's payroll is. And there's other things involving the ownership and the money they have to spend and all that. The thing that kills me every time I look at it is the two cities in baseball that have the closest market share to Cleveland are San Diego and St. Louis.
Yep.
Two teams. San Diego is consistently a top 10 payroll in baseball, and St. Louis is consistently a mid-level payroll in baseball. If they're not contending, it's higher.
Yep.
Or if they are contending, it's higher, I should say. So I always just want to give me the spare me conversation when it comes to well, we can't, we're in a small market. Spare me.
For sure. And And the Cardinals, just a couple years ago, I mean, they traded for Nolan Arenado, like that. They brought him in there. They had Paul Goldschmidt. Like they have guys in that lineup that they're willing to either trade for or pay. No, I agree with you. The payroll only matters depending on what the owner wants to do. Payroll doesn't matter about market size or attendance or they're factors into, the revenue that they're bringing in. But like if an owner wants to spend, an owner's going to spend. If an owner doesn't, he's not going to. So I agree with you 100%. And as you were talking too, I was just thinking about the Twins don't really operate like this. Like they rarely make moves, I feel like, but right. I mean, look at the Royals. Like they traded for Jonathan India from the Reds in the offseason. Yep. They brought up Jack Caglione, their number one prospect, like a couple weeks ago. He's playing he's playing every day. I think he hit a home run tonight. He's in the lineup. Like they have Bobby Witt Jr. and they're like, let's go do stuff. Yeah, it's hard to look at that picture. It makes me emotional as you put it on this. As you put it on the screen.
Again, we're a bunch of guys talking about our feelings over it.
Yeah. But if the Royals are doing that, you're telling me the Guardians can't do that? Like it's tough.
And
I think about Paul Skeens a lot. How long would Paul Skeens be in the minors if he was in the Guardian system?
and about
down there.
Yeah. And about Detroit ownership, Jordan, like as you mentioned it beforehand, when you sell as many hot and readies as the Ilitch family does,
listen,
delicious. I mean, delicious. You can afford someone to give someone like Miguel Cabrera a 10-year contract.
Yeah,
it's a really good point. It's a really good point. All right, one last thing, because I was thinking about this today, and I feel like we have these three owners in Cleveland, and I think the man that obviously is far and away separated himself is Dan Gilbert from the pack, because there's really nothing that dude does outside of one letter he wrote in Comic Sans a long time ago that really makes you go, ugh, Dan Gilbert. I mean, the guy invests in Cleveland. He invests in Detroit. He overspends, I think, every NBA owner. I think Dan Gilbert has spent more money out of pocket than every NBA owner on the basketball team. And man, that guy wants to win. He got that taste of a championship in 2016, and he wants more, and you can tell. And then you got the other two. And I want to hear your thoughts here. You've got the owner of the Cleveland Browns, Jimmy Haslam, who is kind of embarrassing, kind of gross. Like just talking about him is kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
Jimmy, it makes you. It puts like a look on your face where you're like, ugh, Jimmy Haslam. But you to a point, he's really bad at trying to win, but he really does try to win. Like that dude is trying to win. He wants to win a Super Bowl, if nothing else than defeat his ego. But he wants it. He wants it badly, and he hasn't been good at it. But he's another guy that spends more money out of pocket than a lot of NFL owners. The Cleveland Browns, again, that's kind of sad based on how bad they are, but they spend a ton of money out of his pocket to try to be a winner. And so you've got like the kind of the gross guy that's kind of embarrassing, but man, does he want to win?
Yep.
And then you've got like the exact opposite of him. There's nothing embarrassing about Paul Dolan. I mean, we're not going to start getting into like political views and stuff. There's nothing embarrassing about Paul Dolan. I mean, he's a huge benefactor of the Cleveland Clinic. He's a benefactor of the city of Cleveland. He does a lot of good things for the town. He's not kind of cringy and weird, but there's no desire to win here. Like it just has to boil down to that. There's just no desire. He does not care if his team ever wins a World Series. He just doesn't. Like it wouldn't even surprise if they did win a World Series. It wouldn't surprise me if he was like, "Hey, I'm not coming. I'm not even going." Like I don't know. Like where do we want to live here? Where do we want to live? I like to me. I think I'll put up with the owner that wants to win.
Oh yeah, I think you like 10 out of 10 times. I always think like, what is the point of owning a sports franchise if you're not invested in them winning? Like I think about myself. If I suddenly came into billions of dollars and somebody was like, you can buy any franchise you want, I would be like, let's go. Like I might be terrible at it, but like I'd still be like every day. That's all I would think about, Like yes. I would be like you. I feel like that's something you do because you're passionate about it, because it's fun, because that's not a thing where you're like, I need to run this like an efficient business, Like that's something I'm trying to have fun with that. I'm trying to do it. So yeah, I understand like with Jimmy Haslam, is trying to do. I understand, like, he does very bad, probably to a fault, like, wants to win, and so he makes impulsive decisions based on that passion that have not worked out. But I would take that over, a guy who, he's also just in that you never hear from Paul Dolan. You never see him. The only time I feel like he doesn't talk to the media. Like, he rarely ever does interviews. The only time you see him is when he's doing like a promo on the Guardians broadcast for like, check out our renovations next year. Like, that's the only time you see that guy. No, I mean, it feels, whether it's accurate or not, I think, to your point, it feels apathetic from him. And that's definitely worse than someone who wants to win too badly and makes dumb decisions because of that. Fine, whatever. Like, yes, absolutely would rather have that than somebody who is not visible, does not seem like to your point, doesn't seem like he cares that much, or just doesn't give any insight into what's going on with the team ever, or what their mindset is, or what they're trying to do. And that's frustrating.
Can you guys picture having that amount of like, just imagine going in, like, picture you're like, they have like Steve Cohen money and you own the Guardians. You're like, so we're going to offer Juan Soto 15 years and $765 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sign it. But yeah. Go ahead. No problem. Like, I've got that in my couch cushions.
Yeah. Right.
I can only dream of that.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to the team a little bit, and then Jordan will let you out of here. But we got trade deadline coming up at the end of the month, basically, and it really appears, unless something crazy happens, although the Houston Astros are back into this game.
Are they? Okay, great.
6-4. 6-4.
All right, great.
It appears as though the Cleveland Guardians will be probably unloading some of these guys, and rightly so. Listen, if you're going to be mad that they're going to trade Lane Thomas, I can't help you. If you're going to be mad that they're going to trade Carlos Santana, listen, Cleveland legend, love Carlos Santana, but yeah, he can go. He's got to retire. Carlos is done. Who are the names? Who are the real names to watch? I mean, I for me, it just is always coming back to Emmanuel Clase.
Yep.
I feel like Emmanuel Clase is the guy that you can actually get a haul for. So you got to make the move, right?
I think you have to do it now, because I don't think his value will be any higher than it is right now. He had a rough start to the season, but he's been pretty damn good since then.
Yes.
I think to your point, you could absolutely get a haul. Like, contending teams are always looking for bullpen help at the deadline, and especially a guy of Clase's caliber. Like, it will be a bummer. He's one of the nastiest closers I've ever watched. I had so much more fun watching him than I did watching any number of closers at the Guardians/Indians who would, like, Chris Perez, Bob Wickman, guys throwing like 88 miles per hour, like Joe Borowski. They've never, they very rarely had a guy that was just throwing heat. Like, you felt like, okay, this dude is throwing a 100-mile-per-hour cutter, like, we're good. So he's been an absolute joy to watch.
Yeah.
But, like, the holes on this team are immense. So I think I would, as depressing as it is, the closer has such a small effect on your team for what the Guardians need, and they have one of the best in the game, and they should absolutely demand a haul. And I think you got to do it. I think it's your biggest chip. I think even if they were contending, it's just kind of like, a good closer is a luxury, I think. Yes. In this day and age, you have so many guys that you mix and match and pitch different innings that if you can get a haul for him, you do it. So I don't know if they will.
Cade Smith's just sitting here. Cade Smith is here. Like,
exactly.
You got his replacement. He's there.
Yep. So I don't know if they're going to do it. I'll be fascinated to see what happens. Like, again, like, if they just decide to win like 7 games in a row here for some strange reason, it'll be interesting to see what they're doing. But I think you move them, and I think you just kind of take your lump there. You get some top prospects, some guys, or whatever you can get there, and you move forward, and you kind of just say, listen, this season has been an abject disaster. We've got to acknowledge that, and we've got to move forward.
I think even if they rattled off 7 in a row, I'm probably trading Clase. Like,
I agree.
Resigned to that at this point. Let's get what you can get for this dude.
I don't know if they'll get that big of a haul, guys. I don't know if you saw this, though. Tyler Naquin just made it to Lake County as a pitcher. So
it's true.
He's on his way. He is on his way.
Oh shit!
That's the closer in waiting.
Yeah,
Are you talking
right.
about Usain Naquin? Oh,
Yeah,
I love that.
damn right.
Now I will. I think I'll be interested because I do think it's an interesting talking point. We've seen them be buyers. We've seen this front office group, although guys have come and gone, but we've seen this front office group be buyers at the deadline, and they've generally done pretty well at it. They've generally, when it's like that rental player type deal, they've generally done pretty well outside of guys like Josh Donaldson. We haven't seen them be sellers a lot. And I will say in big trades, although I think they, again, in a vacuum, did okay this offseason. I'd still rather have Josh Naylor, but Slade Sconey looks like a pretty good pitcher. They still have a lot of work to do. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I'm not. I still am not over the Francisco Lindor deal, and every day that goes by, I'm still not over the fact that you traded the face of your franchise. Which, again, that's fine if you felt like you had to do it. Again, part of the reason you don't hear from Paul Dolan is they don't want him to talk based on what he said about Francisco Lindor. Enjoy him. But you traded not just the face of the franchise, but a guy that's a legit face of the league, and he has been in New York now for years, a legit face of the league, and you don't have one player left. You don't have one. That's a failure of a trade. Like, I know Andres Gimenez came in and won Gold Gloves and was a part of a team that made playoff runs, and Ahmed Rosario was a guy for a while, but like to make that trade and you don't have one guy left, not one, is an abject failure. So I'm interested to see if they can actually prevail on some deals. If they're going to get rid of a guy like Emmanuel Clase, you got to come away with something that's going to be a piece for a while.
They do, and I think you're right. Like, they haven't really been tested in that area in a while in terms of like a big name that you send out, probably since Lindor, and that return. And yeah, I forgot about Ahmed Rosario because what a
sorry,
what a time. It's wild to me that he just pops up on a new team every year, and I'm like, oh yeah, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is. So
like
yeah,
him and Jake Bowers.
Yeah, yeah.
Every time
exactly.
I see Jake Bowers, I'm like, that guy is playing on a team.
Yeah, he is. He's out there. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, they have to, if they trade Clase, they are going to have to get a piece that is going to help this team. And this is why I did a video on Nolan Jones, and he's had a good game tonight. He's continued to struggle, but like, I just want them to take chances on guys that have power. Maybe strike out more than they like. They hate guys that strike out. Like, they hate it with a passion. And I listen, to an extent, I understand it. I just want them to take chances on more guys like a Nolan Jones, who, like, listen, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But this is a guy that when he's hot, he is going to hit home runs. He is going to hit doubles. I want them to take more chances on guys like that. That's probably, if I could sum up my biggest frustration. They do this. The guards ball thing is a parody of itself right now.
Yes.
But even last year when they were hashtag guards ball, I don't want to watch my team play baseball that way. I want my team to hit home runs. I want my team to score more than 3.5 runs a game. Like, I hate the love of let's bunt them over. Let's play small ball. I don't want that. I really don't want that. I really don't enjoy watching that. I would rather just be able to rely on a team that can score runs and do it easily rather than single. Okay, sacrifice fly. I just don't. I cannot stand what guards ball represents because it's such a representative of the organization as a whole. We're we have to do these things because we're not good at scoring runs the easy way, which is home runs, which is doubles. We can't do it because we don't have any power hitters. So that is something that has been a pet peeve of mine ever since it started, is the guards ball thing, because I cannot stand it. I can't stand it as a way of playing baseball. I watch teams like the Padres and the Yankees and the Dodgers. Listen, Guardians will never be those teams, but the idea of those teams is I so much rather would try to take shots at replicating anything those teams do from an offensive standpoint than what the Guardians seem to love. They love it. They love being these little underdogs that have to scratch and claw. And I'm like, why? It doesn't have to be this way. It truly does not have to be this way. And it makes me think, like, you know why people love those 90s teams? It's because they had Jim Thome and Manny Ramirez and Albert Bell. You know?
Paul
Like,
Sorrento, baby. Let's go.
like Juan Gonzalez, Juan Gon. Like, those teams were fun because they hit the shit out of the ball. And
yes,
I don't care who was on steroids. I don't care what was going on. Like, they had an offensive juggernaut. And to like go from, and people wonder why like there's so much nostalgia for those 90 teams, and it's like that's why, you know. Sure, they had like Kenny Lofton and Omar. The rest of those teams were stacked with power hitters, and so I just am like that's what we grew up with, and this whole like small ball thing, man. I had to rant there. I've been meaning to get that guards ball thing off my chest for a while. I think the IPA has helped it come out, so I needed to do
should
it.
have its own wing in the Hall of Fame. That's like it should have its own wing in the Hall of Fame.
There we go.
and it should come back to baseball.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't say that.
you have your two best hitting prospects down since Lindor. You have your two best hitting prospects, power hitters even, down sitting there in Columbus right now, and you don't want to bring them up because despite all the reasons that Antonetti had to call a press conference to explain why he's not bringing them up, which is weird. Since you have them sitting there in Columbus because you don't want to be 1 year closer to having to try to pay them. It's a pathetic way to do business in Major League Baseball. It is. It's an absolutely pathetic way. Even if you don't pay them by the time they're due for a new contract, if it turns into a World Series, it's worth it. Just because you talked about, that just popped up in my mind because you talked about taking chances. These are the type of chances that they need to take.
They don't cost anything.
It doesn't cost anything. Not 1 cent.
Cost nothing, and yeah.
And it's you can't talk about out of both sides of your mouth. You can't say some of the things that he said, but then they're trotting out these weird lineups. And again, maybe this is partly on Stephen Vogt too, but like, why is Kyle Manzardo playing in like half of the games? That dude needs to just play every game.
It's insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Like, what I don't know what other organization is doing that with its young players that they seem. I mean, all the reporting when they traded Savali for Manzardo was like the Guardians have loved Kyle Manzardo for years, and then they bring him here and they platoon him. Essentially, he's a platoon player, and for him to develop, like he barely has enough at bats to qualify for things. Like it's just. Again, it's mind-boggling. I think the Chase DeLauder thing is just kind of the icing on the cake, and I think it almost broke me when Lane Thomas got hurt, and I saw the transaction that they had recalled up Will Wilson. It almost,
it's so good.
It almost, I was like, you're doing this on. I know you guys are doing this on purpose. Like that's is a full-on troll. So that came close. That one came close to breaking me.
Name a job worse than being. I don't know. This is close to home for you, Jordan, but name a job worse than being a Cleveland Guardians ex-admin.
I think there's no worse job in sports than when you're working social for a team that's bad. I think there is truly nothing worse because anything you send, no matter what, all the comments are just going to be like, bring up Chase DeLauder, bring up Juan Brito. What are you doing? Like there's. Yeah. No, I don't think I could.
Proud of what you sent out. And nah, nope.
No, I don't think it would be. I don't think working for a team social account. It's not for the weak. You're gonna get those. Don't look at those comments. Is all I'll say.
Jordan, man, this has been great. There's still so much more to talk about, and we'll have to hit on that as the season goes on. But it's been great talking Guardians baseball with you. It's been great having you on and having a beer with you for the first time. Jordan Zirm, manager of social for Sporting News. Jordan, man, you are awesome. We really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us. And let's not make it another 5 years before we do it again. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me on. It was. Sometimes you don't realize how much you need to vent about one of your teams until you get a couple sips of IPA in you and you sit down and do it. So no, this was really fun. We'll do it again. I don't know. Maybe the Guardians are back and they'll be in the World Series. Who can say at this point if they haven't blown this lead fully? So
do not bet money on it. Do not.
They're on the way.
Don't do
it.
All right. Cheers,
Jordan,
guys.
See you later. Cheers.
See ya.
Big shout out to Jordan Zirm again. From Sporting News, but again, a guy that's just been kind of a big time voice in the Cleveland sports scene for a long, long time. Big shout out to him for coming on and venting Guardians with us again. Really, that's where it came from. I saw him. He went on a vent session on Twitter or on X, and everything he was saying, I was like, yes,
right,
more,
right.
yes. And I sent him a DM. I'm like, Jordan, I don't know why we haven't done this yet, but you want to have a beer and come talk Guardians with us? And he was like, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yes. So big shout out to Jordan Zirm for coming on into the garage for the first ever time having a beer and talking Guardians with us. Yeah, not much more to say right now. Guardians still up 6-4 in Houston. Would be a huge series victory. I mean, I don't know, just for morale.
Sure.
To go to Houston and take the series.
Gain some momentum going into the break.
Just for morale, I'm starting to feel bad for these dudes. But just a little morale would be nice.
Yeah, right.
We'll see. They were up 6-1. Now it's 6-4. So we'll see if they can hang on for another few innings. But in the meantime, we're going to continue on with the last bit of episode 271. And as usual, right when our special guests leave, that's when it's time for us to do our asshole of the week, where we call somebody out, one person, a group of people, several people, for just being an asshole this week. And so, Chad, why don't you kick us off? Who is your asshole of the week this week?
Oh, it's Luis Ortiz. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I mean, whether it's true or not, you couldn't have made it more obvious, right? No major league pitcher throws a ball that bad. All right, and yeah, I don't know, but you messed with your major league career. You messed with the Guardian season. You messed with what are you doing? You're an asshole.
Total asshole move. Some of the jokes that have come out of it have been great. Like some
I haven't seen any.
Some of the memes about how he's blaming his translator because hey, if Shohei can get away with it. No, come on, then. Come on.
Right.
Come on.
Right. Come on. What are you doing? Come on.
Like, and then when I first read the story, I was like, this seems flimsy. And then I watched what they were talking about, and I was like, oh, this seems this sucks.
This could be something.
Yeah, this isn't good. It's not good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
man, what a disaster that would be if all that work that they did. And again, we just kind of shat on the Guardians for an hour, but there was a chance. Now, again, who knows when the hell we're going to see Shane Bieber? That makes me nervous as hell. But there was a chance that the Guardians went out there and said, all right, you can see that they believe that their pitching staff is the key to them being successful. So I understand their thought process when they say, hey, we really think that Slade Cecconi's got something, and he's just not being taken advantage of out in Arizona, which, by the way, is what they did with Trevor Bauer back in the day when they traded for Trevor Bauer. And man,
he's been their number one starter ever since he's been up.
Yeah, he's been great. Great. And Luis Ortiz, ups and downs, but like you can see the nastiness.
The most electric stuff on that staff.
There are some of those games with Luis. My favorite kind of pitchers to have on my team and my least favorite kind of pitchers to go up against are the ones who look like they're throwing a baseball that weighs 27 pounds.
Yeah.
And Luis, when the bat hits the ball, it's like,
right.
Just dies. That's the kind of stuff Luis Ortiz has when he's on. But man, if this turns out to be like a thing, what a disaster. What a disaster. So yeah, total asshole. Man, my asshole of the week, this isn't a person or a tangible thing, but like life and death, man, is just such an asshole sometimes. And
okay.
We went through it here on this podcast and with our fellow fan bases here in Ohio last year with Johnny Gaudreau and a horrible accident that cost him his life. There was another one of those. This week, and it's a person whose star is akin to Johnny Gaudreau. Just it's overseas, and it was in the English Premier League. But Diego Jota from Liverpool, just a rising star, man. Dude in his late 20s. And again, I don't want to get in. Don't even start putting in the comments like, oh, they said he was speeding or whatever. I don't want to hear all that. Like the the bottom line is 2 guys lost their lives, and this dude again was a star player for Liverpool, just a star player, and reports came out that he kind of secretly got married just like 3 weeks before the accident happened, and just a dude in the prime of his life, in the prime of his career, a guy that's about to be a global superstar. He's already on his way there for one of the top soccer teams on the planet, living his dreams, and he gets in a car accident. And it's all over and it's gone. And it's part of this is my cheers to the star that was Hota and what he was, but also just the fact that it can end that fast. And again, we experienced it last year with Johnny. Just the fact that it can end that fast is just, that sucks.
So who's your asshole again? What's your asshole again?
It's like life and death. It's
yeah. Life in general can be an asshole.
Just life and death. Yeah. All right. So that was kind of a tribute to him, but also it's just the fact that life can be an asshole sometimes. All right, let's move on to some kind of like quick hitter things, Chad.
Sure.
I want to talk about this because we haven't had a chance to really talk about it, and I am very excited.
Right?
I'm very excited to do it. Something very familiar has started happening lately. Something very familiar. Something almost hilariously familiar has started happening this year. You ready for it, Chad? LeBron James, Los Angeles Lakers. And you guys are, by the way, in the comments. I meant to get to this earlier. I'm sorry. I'm kind of an asshole for not getting this. How about Rage Quit comes into the comments hard earlier, 9:16 p.m. Hey, how you sons of bitches doing tonight? God, that's a good way to come into the chat. That's a good way to come into the chat. And then Serge follows it up right now. You beautiful sons of bitches.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, is that the word of the night? We are.
You guys are hammered, huh?
We're sons of bitches, and we're happy about it. Lots of all too familiar stuff going on with this gentleman right here who's on the screen. If you're listening to it later, it is a picture of LeBron James in a golf cart in the Northeast Ohio area wearing a hat that says "Welcome Home." And it was a week, Chad, of very familiar things. What were the familiar things? Well, here's LeBron in Northeast Ohio wearing a "Welcome Home" hat. And then here's LeBron on Instagram making comments on people's pictures because they're wearing LeBron in Cleveland jerseys. And he's like, that's the right jersey right there. And he's making comments like that on Instagram for all the world to see. And then it turns out LeBron's at the Cavaliers practice facility getting some work in with dudes that are on the Cavaliers Summer League squad. And then, above all else, familiar things. If you'll remember, when they brought LeBron back after his stint in Miami, everybody was doing flight tracker. Remember that? They were watching for Dan Gilbert's flights. Where's it going? Dan Gilbert's on his way to Miami. And then Dan Gilbert comes out with a tweet that says, you guys are hilarious. I wish I was on a plane down to Miami. I'm on my back patio right now, just getting ready to watch some fireworks or something like that. Well, right, Dan, right. So what does LeBron do this week? You guys are hilarious. You need to find something else to occupy your time. I still live in the Northeast Ohio area, and I got to get work in. A member of the Los Angeles Lakers doesn't get work in at the Cleveland Cavaliers practice facility. So here we are, Chad. I'm going to tell you this. I want to tell you this. I'm full on back in LeBron watch right now. I'm full on. If I've learned anything about this man on this screen, nothing's an accident with this guy. Nothing has ever been an accident with LeBron James. Surge. Everyone's summer's in Cleveland. Right. Listen, nothing's ever been an incidental with LeBron James. Nothing's ever been accidental. I think of all athletes that I can ever think of in my life, he is the most intentional. He is the most purposeful with what he does. I think that guy thinks out every minute of every day of his life. And I'm all in. I'm all bought in on LeBron Watch 2025. I think we all need to be on LeBron Watch 2025.
Well, I think you're going to be disappointed. It's July in the sports world, and this is what we're doing. LeBron knows.
That's what everybody said before.
Listen, I agree. Everything LeBron does is very calculated, but I think this is more of a case of him poking the bear with the Los Angeles Lakers. I think this is him just putting stuff out there to force the Lakers' hand. It's the same thing he did with Cleveland. It's the same thing he did when he was here. So, I mean, I'm not going to believe any sort of move until something happens. But the NBA is a league where the players run it. It is very much a players' league. And a guy like LeBron, who holds literally all the power in the NBA, is going to be able to go and anywhere that he pleases and get some work in. So he could go to Madison Square Garden and just go like, listen, I'm going to shoot around here, right? He's like, I'm going to walk in and he's going to be like, I'm LeBron James, and they're like, yeah, go ahead. Like that. That's what's going to happen when someone like LeBron James goes anywhere. So is there something to this? Obviously there is, because like you said, and I agree with you, any move he makes has purpose behind it. But is it a move to the Cavs? No, I don't know. I'm not going to completely say no, but I'm also not going to completely say yes, because he's incredibly calculating, and he's currently a Los Angeles Laker. And so right now I'm just going to take this as he's sending a message to the Lakers at the moment. That's it. That's all I'm taking this, because I'm not going until this starts to gain steam about him being traded to the Cavs. I'm not going to wrap myself up in it. I'm just not, because he does have a house in Bath. It's very beautiful. I've been by it. Plenty of times. You can see it. You can see into his fucking backyard in Bath, right? It's right near Highland High School, where we call games, Mike.
Oh yeah, I love that place.
Yeah. It's he has a house right near there. He loves. He will never not come back to Akron. He's always said that he will never not come back to Akron. He runs a charity in Akron every summer. So yeah, he does a whole bike ride in Akron every summer. So sure, yeah, let's. Everybody's going to get wrapped up in it. I get it, but I'm just someone who's not going to believe anything until they see it.
I've also succumbed to one thing, and I want to make this public. Succumb is the word.
Wow.
Take it easy, Chad. Don't get too worked up over there.
Wow.
Don't get hot and bothered.
Yeah,
I've succumbed to an idea.
Off.
I'm freely admitting this. If he's available, I would like the Cavs to make this deal, and I want it to happen for a couple of reasons. One, again, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. I think the Cavaliers can win a championship as currently constructed. Literally, this current team, without making any other moves, I think can win a championship. And shit, I think if any year it could happen, it's this upcoming year, where every superstar in the East is gone, just laid up with injury. But if you are somebody who thinks that this core four isn't the group, then there's a little appeal here. So if you're gonna trade for LeBron, and I'm gonna give you a reason why I don't think it's gonna happen, but if you're gonna trade for LeBron, you're Darius Garland and Jared Allen are gone. Which, by the way, preemptive cheers of the week, Jared Allen. How about Jared Allen going to a Guardians game, just like a day game, and standing out in the left field standing room only, and just having some beers and watching the game just amongst the people. Got it.
Right. And wearing the promo T-shirt.
Yeah, he put on the giveaway T-shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, God, how do you do anything other than just love that dude?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, past asshole alert. The people who were making fun of him for wearing like Old Navy clothes.
Right. Sorry, I'm sorry he's normal.
Yeah. Anyway.
You're going to get those guys are gone. And so now you're looking at going into the season with you're probably looking at Lonzo Ball and Darius Garland and LeBron James and Evan Mobley and whoever else you got. I don't know, Larry Nance Jr. Maybe Evan Mobley's your center. Maybe LeBron's your power forward and Evan Mobley's your center and Max Strus is starting. Or if you can find a way to keep DeAndre Hunter. I really like that team though. I really like
Sure.
the playmaking on that team is outrageous. That's a title contending team. Here's the other reason I like it though, and this is and this gets into a little bit deeper of a conversation, but like everybody's a little concerned about the Cavaliers when it comes to the salary cap and the second apron and all that stuff and their flexibility moving forward and all that. Well, if LeBron comes in and let's say you pay him for 2 years, 2 years from now he's off the books. And all that salary is off the books. And all of a sudden, the Cavaliers, you still have Donovan Mitchell, you still have Evan Mobley, whoever else you choose to keep from the team, and you have cap space. Because you've already extended those guys. Those guys are already making their money. So now it's almost like you have a little out to be like, hey, let's run this with LeBron. But when he's done, we're not left with the shambles of LeBron like we've been left with in the past. We're left with a hell of a roster still and cap space to build around it. There's reasons that it's a positive.
The one caveat I have, if you're gonna trade for LeBron, it's the one thing that I want most of all. If we do end up trading for LeBron, you need to sit down with him and you need to get a firm commitment from him, whether it's 1 year or 2 years. I don't want none of this song and dance. I don't want none of this being held hostage by him, whether he's going to be playing or not. None of the draft. Like I don't want to spend draft picks to like, or whatever we need to do to build around him. I need a firm commitment from him for 1 or 2 years because I cannot do that a third time with him. I cannot do that a third time. That's my one caveat to him being traded for LeBron. If he does, great. Right. I mean, outside of that, I think it's a win-win whether you trade for him or you don't. So
yeah. Now, here's the biggest reason I think they don't. Again, I feel like my theme of this episode is talking out of both sides of your mouth. This is directed directly at LeBron. You can't come out and say all you want to do the last couple of years. He's been recorded saying that Savannah wants him to retire over the next couple of years. You can't come out and say that your only intention all you want to do over the last couple of years of your career is win another championship or 2 more championships or whatever. You can't say that and then opt into your $54 million player option with the LA Lakers and then have to make them find a trade, because whatever team they're going to have to trade with is going to have to decimate part of their roster to get you there. Yeah. That doesn't equate to, hey, I'm trying to win titles.
Right.
The Lakers are not building a current contender right now. They're trying to build for the future of Luka and the Lakers. So that Lakers team ain't a contender.
Right.
So if LeBron wanted to win a title, what should he have done? And listen, don't get me wrong. I am nobody to tell you what to do with your money. I'm nobody to tell you that you should turn down tens of millions of dollars, because even if you're LeBron James and you're like a billionaire, it's still tens of millions of dollars. But if it was truly the last couple of years of his career and it's all about winning championships, he should have declined that player option and come and signed, if it's Cleveland or anywhere, New York, whatever, should have declined that player option and played the last 2 years of his career on a veteran minimum contract somewhere, so that a place like Cleveland or New York or Dallas or whatever team brings him in can bring him into an already stacked roster. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to get rid of anybody to bring him in. And all of a sudden, cool. Now we're going to run it for 2 years with our current roster plus LeBron James.
Right.
If it was really all about titles, that's what he would have done.
Right.
Again, I don't fault him for being like, I'm still LeBron James and I'm worth $50 million. I do not fault him for that. But you also can't come out of the other side of your mouth and be like, it's all about titles for me now. All about titles. No,
right. Right.
No, it ain't. Listen, man, you've been in the league for 20. What year is this going to be? 24 years, 23,
Too much.
23, 24 years. The most ever. You're going to have been in the league the most ever years. If it's really all about winning, and you're still putting up 27 points and 6 rebounds and 7 assists or whatever a game. If it's really all about titles, you take a vet minimum somewhere and you go win titles somewhere. So that's why I don't think it's going to happen, because, again, the Cavs are going to have to decimate 2 of their starters to bring LeBron in. Right. Would it be worth it? Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Sure.
But that's what's going to have to happen. So Anyways, the smoke signals are happening, and it's something to keep an eye on. Something to keep an eye on. Really quickly, and I think it's maybe the last thing before we get to Cheers of the Week. But I want to talk about one other thing, Chad. And this could go back to the asshole of the week, but let's go to the Browns for a hot minute.
Oh boy. Okay.
There's a specific Browns player I want to talk about.
Okay.
Is it Shadur Sanders?
No. It's Caden Davis, isn't it?
Is it Dylan Gabriel? Nope.
Ooh. Okay.
Is it Joe Flacco? Nah.
Ooh. Let me guess. I don't know.
It's not Myles Garrett. It's not Denzel Ward. It's not Emerson or Newsome. It's none of them. It's not any of the draft picks. We'll put it on the screen right now. There's one player I want to talk about because this player has people losing their freaking minds. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Northeast Ohio's own Luke Floria.
Yeah. Menor High School alumni. Let's go.
Cardinal. Chad, when did he leave Menor? We had to have called a game of his.
Like 2008, something like that.
No, what? 17 years ago?
I'm just kidding. Like,
yeah.
It was like 2000, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, 2018, somewhere around in that area.
Yeah. Well, probably more like 2020. But we had to have called a game of his. I'm sure we've called a game of his.
Sure.
I just can't remember.
We called Menor and Medina every year. We just didn't pay attention to him because Drew Aller was at Medina at that point.
Correct. Have you seen the people just losing their minds about this kid?
Sure haven't, but there's a lot of cuck Browns fans out there that'll do it. So
people are so desperate.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it. People are so desperate to find like the next great white hope wide receiver.
Yeah.
I've seen this kid, Luke Floria, Menor High School. I've seen him get compared to two players now so far. You want to know who their names are?
What? Let me guess. Wes Welker?
Nope, close though.
Julian Edelman?
Yep, that's one. Yep. Oh, hey, the quote was, and this is from like a media member.
From a what?
Like a media member, like a Cleveland, like a Browns reporter. If he reminds you of Julian Edelman, you're not alone. All right, so Julian Edelman's one, and the other one.
Oh, God, who's the other one? Lad McConkey?
Oh.
Who?
There are other media members that are saying that right now on the screen, this picture of Luke Floria, undrafted, Menor High School, Luke Floria, Kent State, Luke Floria. That's the next Cooper Cup right there, Chad Meyer. That's the next Cooper Cup. That's what reporters are saying. That's what some reporters are saying.
You guys realize he's coming off an 0-12 Kent State season, right? Like, not to say that he can't be a success story, but he was part of a winless college football team. That's hard to do, especially in the MAC.
Surge, a true grinder, a real coach's son, student,
high motor.
Type. Yeah. Oh yeah. Just a knack for the football.
Yeah.
Knack for the football.
Yeah. The gym rat.
That's the other thing. Everybody's like, well, he's like a lot of guys are small. Nobody's 5'8", 179 is the size on Luke Floria. Neither one of those guys we talked about before were 5'8", 179. Listen, God, wouldn't it be great if this Menor kid, this Kent State product comes out and is just this like phenom, catches
awesome.
everything, shifty, gets out of tackles, he's fast, he's agile, he's a guy that you could just get the ball in his hands and he makes things happen. Wouldn't it be awesome? But can we all slow the hell? Luke Floria is the Cleveland version of Arch Manning right now. You know, everybody in college football is like Arch Manning Heisman this year. Best college. I saw somebody say Arch Manning is the best college football player, best college football quarterback we've seen since Tim Tebow. I'm like, what do you mean we've seen? He hasn't played at all. What are you talking about?
You know what the funny thing is? He's probably going to light it up in the preseason, and people are just going to be all just creaming their jeans.
Yes. Oh, my God. It just happened. Again, Serge, love you in the comments here. Serge just said it in the comments. waiting for the Austin Watkins breakout. Remember Austin Watkins?
It's coming, Serge. It's coming.
Dude, guys.
Yeah.
Before we start crowning somebody the next Cooper Kupp or Julian Edelman, or do we always have to say that a white receiver is like other white receivers? Like, there's other guys that he could be like. Before we start crowning Luke Floria, and again, shout out to Luke Floria for like working hard in camp and making a name for himself, but like, let's see it on a few Sundays, please. Before we start calling you the next Cooper Kupp, let's see it work out on a few Sundays before that, and then I'm all in.
Nope, he's Cooper Kupp.
Oh well, you know what? Fair enough.
Because I said it. Because I thought it. I said it, and that's what it is.
I love it. All right, so those were just my little quick hitters before we get out of here. Again, if you missed it before we get to our cheers of the week, if you missed it before, man, big news. I think it's the first time ever. It certainly is the first time ever in the 5 years we've been doing the Garage Beers. First time we've had an active head coach of one of our teams jump onto the podcast with us next week. The July 15th episode of Garage Beers, episode 272. It's me, it's Chad, it's Joe, and it's the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Dean Evison. I cannot wait for this conversation with Dean Evison. Again, we're going to get into show tunes. We're going to get into taking over the helm of the Blue Jackets, and we're going to get into, man, how are we going to take this team and make them a real Stanley Cup contender? Dean Evison joining us next week on episode 272. You do not want to miss it. Now it's time for us to wrap things up here on episode 271 with our cheers of the week. And Chad, I let you go first with the asshole of the week, so I will lead things off with the cheers of the week. And I'm going to go back to one of the owners we talked about. I'm going to talk about, here's Sean. I will be honest with you guys. Sean said, will Dean Evison be live or pre-recorded? We're going to pre-record that interview with Dean Evison because he wasn't available Tuesday night at 9 p.m. It's not the easiest time to be available. So shout out to Jordan Zirm tonight for being available. But we'll have a pre-recorded segment with Coach Evison, and then we'll do the rest of the show. So just so you know that. I'm going to go back to Dan Gilbert for my cheer of the week, and he's going to be included in this. Dan Gilbert and the rest of his crew. How about bringing the fifth COSM in all of the United States? The
I'm
fifth
so
one
excited.
is coming to Cleveland. They are building up that weird parking lot that's right across the street from Rocket Arena, like right kind of between Rocket Arena and Harry Buffalo and that whole area. They're building that area up, and that is going to turn into a COSM/other retail area, I think. I cannot wait. That's been like a since those things have popped up just over the last 2 years.
Right.
That has been like a bucket list sports atmosphere for me, whether it's a college football game.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine living in Cleveland now. Imagine watching Ohio State Buckeyes games at COSM.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We're going to have a Garage Beers night out when that happens.
Hell yes. Or whether it's like, I imagine they'll have like a kick-ass like WrestleMania party or something like that.
Hell yeah.
Or imagine the Cleveland Browns make it back to the playoffs sometime in this century, and maybe it's an away game. Oh, you go watch it at COSM. You won't be able to get a ticket, but you go watch it there. I think it's one of the coolest ideas. They took a sports bar and they mashed it up with like the IMAX theater.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to attend my first.
Like a mini sphere in Vegas.
And I think it's cool as hell. I think it's cool as hell that it's I think it's Dallas, it's LA, it's Vegas. I don't know where the other.
It's coming to Cleveland. Who cares?
I don't know where the other
one.
COSM
It's going to
is,
be the best one.
But boom, Cleveland is number 5 on the list, and I'm pumped for it. So shout out to everybody involved. Again, Dan Gilbert was kind of at the head of that for bringing COSM to Cleveland. I can't wait. So that's my cheer of the week because it's awesome.
Nice.
Chad, what about you?
Well, my cheers of the week goes to Cade Smith for looking like WWE's Gunther. He looks
the ring general.
like doppelganger-ish. Now, my other cheers is actually to another Guardians player, Joey Cantillo, man. 2 straight starts, very solid.
Yeah.
Like so far, I mean, I'm not going to say he's figured out something, but he's looked very confident in his last 2 starts. So if he can develop into something, maybe that can help the Guardians the rest of the way, but we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, those are my 2 cheers.
All right. Last year, just to show
cheers! Cheers to cheers to Fletch too for not having to have surgery on his toe.
Oh God, that was gross as hell.
yeah. Well, I guess the ER doctor that we had is an asshole of the week because I could have punched him in the face because the way he made it sound was like, oh, his toe is shattered. He might need surgery. But they didn't show us the X-ray. Ortho showed us the X-ray. Just a little chip off his foot. Just a little chip off his toe. It's gonna be fine. All right.
It still sucked though.
We do induce panic, dickhead.
Sorry, we didn't talk about it, but Chad's son Fletcher just destroyed his toe with like a piece of playground equipment, and
yeah.
Chad decided, Chad, you got to send like a warning, by the way, before you just send the text message of the picture of the toe.
Nope.
I opened that.
Nope.
And I was like,
Nope. Nope.
Fletcher's toe is just hanging on for dear life. Thanks for the pick. All right, shout out to Fletch. A couple other quick shout outs. Serge wants to give a shout out to first responders that jump in to help during tragic events going on in the country. Hell yeah, there's a lot of those happening. And those people that just jump in and risk their lives, big time shout out to them. I do want to give a shout out, cheer of the week to Maddie Whalen, our third host, our third co-host here on the show. Joey Whalen not here tonight because it's Maddie's birthday. So a big time Garage Beers happy birthday goes out to Maddie, who is Garage Beers family. Big time shout out for the birthday. We want to give her a shout out as well. So that's going to do it for episode number 271 of the Garage Beers podcast. A couple thank yous to give out before we get out of here. First of all, thank you to our special guest here tonight, Jordan Zirm. He is manager of socials and content for Sporting News. Big time shout out to Jordan for coming in and talking all things Cleveland Guardians, for venting Guardians with us over a cold beer or two, and really sharing some really good stuff. Really good conversation. Also some laughs. Big time shout out to Jordan. Make sure you go follow him at Jordan Zirm on the socials. And I'm sure we will do that again with Jordan in the near future, but big shout out to him for coming on with us. Shout out to the OBR for hosting us. The Orange and Brown Report is the oldest and largest independent Cleveland Browns coverage site in all of Cleveland. And then they are gracious enough to host us every Tuesday night to talk about the Guardians and the Cavs and the Blue Jackets and the Buckeyes and also the Cleveland Browns. But listen, the OBR, 5 nights a week, bringing you nonstop video coverage. And then at theobr.com, the best written coverage of the Browns you're going to get anywhere in Cleveland. So make sure you get over to theobr.com and subscribe. And make sure you subscribe and follow on YouTube, Twitch, or anywhere you follow the OBR. Our last and our biggest thank you goes out to all of you, whether you joined us live here tonight for episode 271, about 428 people in here as we have gone through. Big shout out to you guys in the doldrums of the sports world. Big shout out to you for joining. If you didn't join us live or if you missed this one, make sure you always check things out either on YouTube, on Twitch, or on podcast version at Apple, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you want to check us out. Big shout out to all of you that support us and that listen and that watch. We appreciate you and we love you. So that is going to do it for us here for episode 271. For Joey, who's not here because of the wife's birthday. For Chad at Garage Beers Chad, I am Michael Keefe at Garage Beers Mike. Go follow the show at The Garage Beers on all the socials. And we will see you next week for an absolutely enormous episode 272. Until then, cheers, everybody.